It's good to be here. I always love coming down here. It's such a gentle, loving kind of community. It's wonderful to be with you and to have this opportunity to speak. As I shared before, I don't get to speak as much as I used to, so I will try to stay within time limits, but if it gets too long, just leave, you know, or yell at me or something. Give it away. You know, I almost don't need to do my talk because between the reading and the song, you've already got the message. All my little trickery in the title about how do you get love, how to get the love you want. And you know, I know all of that stuff about giving it away and about being love and living love. But I still have my moments, and I suspect you do too, where I just want more. I just ain't getting enough love. I have a friend who anytime I say, come here and give me some love, he says, and we do a big hug, and he says that to everybody. It's a nice thing, and I like it. But I'm also guilty of being that guy sitting on the couch feeling lonely and not having the energy or willingness to get up and go do anything else. Or to meander. Have you ever meandered in your brain through your past? And you think about mom or dad, and man, I wish I'd have gotten more love there. You know, there hasn't been a perfect mom or dad yet. I don't know if you've noticed that, but there hasn't. So there's always a place where we can find in those relationships where there wasn't enough love or didn't seem to be, or where we didn't think we were getting it. Valentine's Day. You know, I have a friend who calls this the codependent holiday. It's right up there with the amateur night for budding alcoholics, which is New Year's Eve. And other, you know, the Overeaters Anonymous great holiday, which is Thanksgiving, and on it goes. So you can put a negative spin on anything, and for some people, Valentine's Day is a very painful time, especially if you've lost a relationship recently, or if you're living in a place of need and want and feeling the lack. The idea of chocolate and roses just doesn't quite sound exciting. I mean, how many times can you give yourself chocolate and roses and be happy about it? So we all have these moments, or maybe I'm the only one, where we feel like we want more love, we need more love. How do we get more love from our friends, from our family, from God? You ever go through something where you're thinking, God, if you love me, why are you letting this happen to me? And why are you putting me in it? Why did you put me in this body? Why did you put me in this place? Why am I having this experience? You know, we all have these times where we feel like and we want more love. And we want more of it in our lives. We want to experience it. We want to feel it. We want to know it. So I want to invite you. And if you haven't got any of this in your life, good for you. You can snooze out in the next 2 minutes. But if you take a moment, close your eyes, think about that person or persons or situation. Maybe it's the government. I don't know. That you feel you really, really wish you'd got more love from or were getting more love from. Might be the person sitting next to you. Take a moment and let that person float into your mind. Just let them show up. Don't force it. Don't try to come up with your issue. Just see if somebody pops in your mind. And now I want you to ask them the most important question you could ever ask them. And listen for the answer. The question is, how can I love you more? How can I love you more? See what they say. Okay, just pay attention to what the answer was, or remember it, jot it down for later, or whatever you want to do with that. The first time I asked that question that way, I was in a conference with Louise Hay at a Silomar, which is our CSL, used to be our CSL national gathering in the summer. And the person who popped in my mind was my father, long-term issues with dad. You know, we all have those, one or the other parent, or both of them sometimes. And my dad was a loving, wonderful man who was also a violent, angry man who was also a very confused man who died very young. And when I asked that question of him in my imagination, his answer to me amazed me. His answer to me was, love me more by telling the truth about me. Blew my mind. I'd made up stories about how wonderful the relationship was and how perfect everything was in our home and how my childhood went a certain way. And then when that happened and that message came up, I started remembering the other stuff. And it was the other stuff that I had continued to use to limit my life, to limit my possibilities, to limit my loving, to limit my trust, to limit my ability to be in the world as a safe place. And it wasn't until I loved him enough to tell the real story that the healing began. And what came out of that, after years of process, is what is a genuine sense of having loved him and him loving me in spite of all the other stuff, because I know he did. I know he did. See, and love is like that. It isn't the automatic things we always think of. See, love is not a commodity. This is the piece I want you to get. If you don't get anything else from this conversation. And I can't call it a conversation because I'm talking and you're listening and talking back at me in your mind, right? Or you're talking to Spirit in your mind, and Spirit's talking to you. You're everyone hearing a different talk, and that's perfect. Some of it might match what I'm saying, some of it won't. Love's not a commodity. Love is not something you can get from anyone else or give to anyone else. Sorry about that. From one perspective, it is, because you don't experience it as love unless we're giving it away, but there's a higher view. There's a higher 30,000 foot, 60,000 foot, 100,000 foot view. And that is, you really can't even give love away because it's not a something. It's not a commodity. You can't buy it. You can't trade for it. Lord knows I've tried that one. Have you? If I please you, you'll love me. That's just my problem, right? Nobody else got that? Anybody else? Okay. If I act a certain way, say a certain way, dress a certain way, behave a certain way, you'll love me. And then there's that flip side of that is if you really knew me, you wouldn't. Anybody ever have that one? Because we think about love so often as something to give and take, some kind of commodity that we have to either get more of or give more away in hopes that we'll get more that way. Right? Yeah. Well, it's not that. You can't get it. You can't trade it. You can try. But that just turns into manipulation. You know, being a good girl or good boy, acting the way you're supposed to if you're a girl and the way you're supposed to if you're a boy. God forbid, if you're a boy, you show up in a dress, or a girl in pants when I was a kid. Not without being name called. All of that stirs up inside of us, and we keep looking for, how do we get this love? How do we make it happen? Well, I want to read you a definition. One of the things I love about studying the Science of Mind, and particularly the Science of Mind textbook, is the answers are on the back. You know, whatever you're doing, whatever you're working with, the answers are in the back. You can read all this stuff in the front, and it's all great, wonderful material, but when you run into a question, you're like, what? Go to the back of the book. It has the answers. Always wanted a textbook like that. And here's what Dr. Ernest Holmes says about love. Love is the self-givingness of spirit through the desire of life to express itself in terms of creation. Emerson tells us that love is synonymous with God. We're also told in the New Testament that he that loveth knoweth not, he that loveth not knoweth not God. For God is love. Love is free from condemnation. Even it is free from fear. Love is a cosmic force whose sweep is irresistible. Love is the self-givingness of spirit to life through its creation as its creation. That's a lot of fancy philosophical stuff, but what it means simply is that love is the very essence and stuff of the universe. You're created out of love. Love is all there is. You've heard that before. God is all there is. Love is all there is. If love is God, then God is love, then love and God is all there is. No matter how it may look on the outside. And what we are really after in trying to get more love or give more love or trade for love is to be awakened to the love that we are, to who we already are. When you're sitting on your couch wishing you had love in your life and it doesn't seem to be around, it simply takes a recognition, a movement from that thinking that love is something to be gotten or to be without, and shifting into the awareness that you already are. You know, we're like the fish, the little fish, swam the 7 seas looking for water. You know, we are immersed in and live in love, and yet we look for it as if it were out there somewhere, separate from us, and we have to get it, or as if you don't have it and I need to give it to you because you're lacking it. Now, I'm not suggesting we don't do loving things. Please, don't hear me that. You know, that we all sit in our own little world quietly and silently. But I am suggesting that when we do loving things for one another, what we are doing is awakening the awareness in the other person of who they really are as love. We're not giving them anything. We're awakening in you and one another what's already there. That we are loving beings. We are beings created of love, and we are love expressing as spirit, becoming something in creation. And so is everybody else. So that when we fall into what some people think is the opposite of love, it isn't. That hatred kind of stuff. I was on Facebook while I was waiting out in the parking lot. I came down a little early today, and a Facebook friend said, was talking about a couple of our political leaders and how much he hates them. And I went, that's just what the world needs, is more hate, right? And yet, our hate is the same power as love. It's the same energy. It's just slightly distorted. We don't hate people we don't care about, right? If you hate them, you care about them enough to hate them, to build up all that energy and right? If you don't, the opposite of love is apathy. The absence of love is impossible. If what Dr. Holmes says is true, and I believe it is. So what we get to do is live in a world where love exists no matter how it may look and show up. Emma Curtis Hopkins says every person is motivated by love no matter how ugly their expression of it might look to you. Now, I know we can all come up with all those suggestions about, well, what about the guy robbing the liquor store? Or what about this, or what about that, or what about the other? Every person is acting out of what they believe is the most loving thing to do for themselves, no matter how distorted it might be according to our norms and structure. So underneath it, behind it, there's this same energy and power of expression and creativity. What we need to do is get a better idea of what those expressions are and wake up to what we really have. Wake up to the truth that in a world of a universe of oneness, you can't steal from anybody. You can't lie to anybody. The truth will always be shown. It'll always be there, no matter what you try to cover up and hide, no matter how painful it may look sometimes on the outside. Love is a whole. It's a oneness. It's a unity. And it cannot be split up, broken up, sold, and bought. It just is. And when I recognize that, then I can begin to realize, even sitting on my couch, being a couch potato and wishing I could get my energy up to go walk and do something, I am still love. I mean, I love the guy that invented the couches. Especially mine. It's really, really comfortable. I love it. Oh, guy, gal, whoever. The French actually did it. So every time you don't want to eat a French fry, just think of the couch. You know, we got great things from them. Still do. Louise Hay used to say, love your car. Before you get into your car to drive somewhere, just fill it with love and love on it, because it's love expressing. How else could we get where we want to go as quickly and easily and freely and warmly? I mean, I love the guys that built my car, the gals. They're Scandinavian, and they made it to go in the snow, and I like that. It gets me where I want to go regardless of this crazy weather we live in. You know? Love is all around us. My friend Marcia Sutton says, if you want to see love expressed, look for the beauty. Because beauty is simply love in its visual form. If you want to feel love, the feeling of love is expressed as joy. When you feel joy, you are feeling love. So when you're in that hole, when you think you don't have any love and life seems to be sucked out of you by the moment, look for something, some tiny little thing that you can be joyful about. You can appreciate the couch you're sitting on. The fact that, we have flippers now for the TV. You don't have to get up and walk across the room 100 times. Wow! What a wonderful idea. When my idea of loving myself is to sit down and do nothing and flip channels, hallelujah. There are people who loved me enough and loved life enough to create a way for me to do that. There are also people who created bicycles and walking paths and trails through the mountains and all those other wonderful things that are also a way to express the love that I am and the love that you are. So is it making sense? When you get to that higher perspective that I don't have to do something to make you a lovable person or be loved, all I got to do is love you in a way that awakens the love that you are. And sometimes that's doing flowers and candy, and sometimes that's telling you a hard truth about yourself or about myself. We talk about tough love. That's part of that. It's all good. See, because when we start to think we don't have love and we need more of it, what we're really saying to ourselves is we aren't all here. I'm missing life. Life doesn't belong to me. It's a really interesting thing. On my phone, I do the little thing that everybody else does and talk with their fingers. Well, my phone, every time I spell the word love, says it comes out live. Every time. I've done everything. I've canceled it out. I've done all the things you can do to try to make it come out right. It always comes out love, and I have to go back and fix it. And I think it's the universe's kind of tricky little way to remind me that they're synonymous. Just as I can't be without life because it is in me no matter how I feel at any given moment, I can't be without love either. And it reminds me, and it takes me back there. Emmett Fox said, when you're stuck in the problem, don't think about the problem. Think about God. When you're stuck in the loneliness, when you're stuck in the feeling that you need more love from somebody, somewhere, somehow, don't think about the need. Think about God. Think about love. Think about what you love in the moment. What is loving? Look for the beauty around you. My goodness, that's easy in this state. It's also easy not even to see it unless you choose. I'll leave you with a little Baptist because I started out that way. And that is the idea, all it takes is a second, a moment. Dr. Holmes says, as soon as you change your mind, your life changes. Baptists call that repentance. Repentance simply means you're walking this way and you turn around and you walk the other way. You turn from what you're facing. You stop looking at what isn't and start looking at what is. You start looking at, I need more love, I don't have enough, I'm inadequate, to, wow, look at those beautiful lights. Look at that guitar. Look at the music that comes out of that thing. It's just a bunch of wire and wood, but in the hands of a master. Whoa, look what happens. Find a way to get that joy and excitement back. And you've got all the tools. You're hardwired to live from love. You're hardwired to live from beauty. You're hardwired to live from health and wholeness and goodness. All the other stuff takes a lot of effort and energy. That's why it wears us out. Simply turn back to who you are. Because you are wonderful, whole, complete beings of love. Missing nothing, lacking nothing, nothing broken. And so am I. And so it is. Thank you.